Welcome back to Katana TCG. We're going to be looking at an early deck preview of Origin Palkia VSTAR. It's already won a tremendous amount of tournaments overseas. Let's see if we can apply that same amount of power to something in our standard format coming out with Astral Radiance. When it's time to flex on your opponents in Top Cut this season, or even just upgrade your TCG accessories, make sure you're checking out inkgaming.com. They have a wide variety of custom playmats, custom dice bags, face masks, as well as mouse pads too, and a grip of sleeves and dice and deck boxes, all your TCG accessory needs. And you can use the code DADSPOD10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order from inkgaming.com. Your game, your style. Origin Palkia VSTAR is an incredibly powerful card that's won a tremendous amount of the meta share in the Japan leagues overseas, and let's dig into why it's so powerful. Origin Palkia V, 220 HP basic water Pokemon. For 1 water energy, does Domain Ruler. Search your deck for a stadium card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Very useful in a format that loves to put down Path to the Peak, and Palkia Origin VSTAR's attack definitely makes it worthwhile to have your abilities accessible to you, and we'll go into that in just a moment. For 2 water and 1 colorless, it does Hydro Break for 200 damage, and this Pokemon can attack during your next turn, weak to lightning, and a 2 retreat cost. Origin Palkia VSTAR, 280 HP VSTAR water Pokemon. For 2 water energy, Spatial Swell for 60 plus damage. This attack does 20 more damage for each bench Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's, very similar to Suicune, Entei, and Raikou, and its VSTAR power is also very, very powerful. Its ability, Star Portal, during your turn, attach up to 3 water energy cards from your discard pile to your water Pokemon any way you like. Not just V Pokemon, not just bench Pokemon. This is taking 3 energy out of the discard pile and spreading them any way you need to potentially set up a checkmate situation, or just to use one to force retreat and get another attacker into the active spot. Very, very powerful. Can be utilized with VMAX cards that may have had an issue accelerating energy, and combined with things like Melanie, which we run in this deck, you're able to get upwards of 5 energy into play at a time, which is absolutely insane. For the core of this deck, we are going to be utilizing the Shady Dealings line with Drizzile with Shady Dealings. When you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Sobble, you may search your deck for a trainer card, put the card into your hand, then shuffle your deck. This ability is reusable up to as many times as you are allowed to evolve that turn. Very busted. We have elected to use 2 Shady Dealings Inteleon and 1 Quick Shooting Inteleon because I think having the utility in your hand versus the total damage output is a little bit more necessary. So Quick Shooting is not the spine of the deck, but it is a nice accessory to have. Starmie V, 190 HP basic water Pokemon. For 2 colorless, it does Swift for 50 damage. This attack's damage isn't affected by weakness, resistance, or any other effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. Swings through everything. Early chip damage is nice. But for 2 water energy, it does Energy Spiral for 50 times damage. This attack does 50 damage for each energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon in play. So if your opponent has Trinity charged with 3 energy on Arceus and accelerated 3 energy back, good old Starmie does 300 damage. So this is an incredibly anti-Arceus card, and it is super worthwhile. Sparkling Greninja's ability allows us, once per turn, we can discard an energy from our hand, then draw 2 cards. A lot like Fleet-Footed, easier to pull off because it doesn't need to swing into the active to utilize the ability. Not only that, but if we have energy in the discard pile, we are powering up Dialga's VSTAR ability to accelerate that water energy onto our water Pokemon. It feeds one hand, it builds another. And I think that this Greninja card is a great partner Pokemon for this Origin Palkia deck. We did tech in a Manaphy. I think that spread damage is going to be a huge issue for a deck like this, and I think protecting our assets in the form of Shady Dealings, as well as the Greninja, is very important. With the Wave Veil ability, we can prevent all damage done to our bench Pokemon by attacks from our opponent's Pokemon, and it is a 1 price trade-off, so if Urshifu is spending a turn trying to knock out this Manaphy so they can deal damage with things like Gmax Rapid Flow, we have another turn to kind of build up and get a game plan or a checkmate situation going. Not running a huge count of supporters in this deck. We are running 2 Melanie for energy acceleration in combination with the Greninja, allowing us to discard a basic energy, draw cards, and then re-accelerate that energy onto one of our V Pokemon in the form of Starmie or Palkia, and then draw another 3 cards. So that's a 5-card draw engine right there, and it's super duper busted. Irida is an incredibly multifaceted card in a deck like this, being able to search your deck for a water Pokemon and an item card, reveal them and put them into your hand and shuffle your deck. This is so sick. This is being able to go grab Shady Dealings and Teleon and a Scoop Up Net to reutilize Shady Dealings and Teleon, or being able to go grab the Origin Palkia VSTAR, as well as a Quick Ball to potentially get the Starmie at play and utilize Palkia's VSTAR ability to get that off in one turn. It's pretty busted. The possibilities are endless with Irida, and that's why it's in the deck. Now, we did tech in a Roxanne. I know this seems awfully repetitive, but this is going to be a very powerful one-of card to tech into a lot of decks going forward, especially with V-Star giving up less prizes. You are going to put your opponent into different scenarios where you can really disrupt their hand, get rid of their game-winning scenarios, and set up checkmate on your behalf by being able to limit their hand to 2. So definitely consider putting a Roxanne in every deck, at least one of. We almost always have an energy in the discard pile, and there are going to be multiple occasions where you're going to get knocked out, so recycling energy into play with the one of Raihan, as well as being able to go into your deck and search for one card, still super powerful, still super necessary in a deck like this. 4 Quick Ball, 4 Level Ball, 2 Evolution Incense. Pokemon Search is good, especially because your Pokemon Search turns into Trainer Search with Shady Dealings. 4 Cross Switcher. We do not play Boss's Orders in this deck, but I think because of Diancie coming out in the same set, Boss's Orders is not necessarily going to take a step back, but I think Cross Switcher is going to become more important, and because we run 2 Shady Dealings and Teleons as well as Irida, we are able to get the Cross Switcher off more often than not. 3 Scoop Up Nets to reutilize Shady Dealings and appropriately switch in and out of the active as we see fit. 2 Capacious Bucket, because we do need water energy to make our draw engine in the form of Greninja and Melanie combo work. The Echoing Horn. Running one of these is super important because it increases your Origin Palkia V-Star's base damage by 20 for every bench Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's. So you can increase your attack by 20, and not only that, put your opponent in specific situations where they may not have counted on having that bench Pokemon next turn, and can become easy fodder for you to cross switcher into and knock out as well. This just kind of seems like a Drew tech at this point, but getting stuck behind Galarian Wheezing with the neutralizing gas is not fun, so escape rope is very important. Because of Origin Palkia V's first attack that allows you to go grab a stadium out of your deck and put it into your hand, I like to bounce back and forth between the Temple of Sinnoh as well as Training Court. I think that in either scenario, you can set up a better turn 2. Temple of Sinnoh is going to help you shut down bears. Both bears are going to be a problem for this deck, so being able to turn off their special energy is going to be super important going forward. And Training Court, because being able to recycle energy back into play as well as reutilize the Greninja draw engine is going to be a very cool combo going forward. 2 Choice Belt, because attaching one of these to Starmie after 6 energy in play means you hit that 330 mark, which means Duraludon goes bye-bye. And realistically, you only need 8 basic water energy to make this deck work, because you're recycling most of this energy back in between things like Melanie, Raihan, as well as Origin Palkia V-Star's ability. I have had a lot of fun proxying this deck. I've had almost as much fun playing this deck as I have Hisuian Samurott V-Star, so I strongly encourage you to check this out, and definitely do not sleep on Origin Palkia V-Star. Now let's get into the matchups. Good matchups, anything fire. I think that Shaman and Typhlosion and Decidueye just don't have enough in the format right now to make them wildly consistent. I'd love to be proven wrong, and I definitely would be up to any suggestions on how you would build any 3 of those decks. Whimsicott capitalizes on decks that need tools and special energy to be good. We are not one of them. We play the Cross Switcher to get around the Diancie and Dialga to disrupt their early game plan and make it so that they're having a really hard time getting off that Chrono Star attack. The Zoroark Stage 1 box with Mightyena needs to bench a lot of Pokemon to have consistent attackers, and I think because we can attack with Shady Dealings and Teleon, we prove to be very problematic for a deck like that. Mute VMAX, the more Genesect and other utility that they bench, the better off it's going to be for us. Unfortunately, we do sit at that 280 mark in terms of HP, so Meloetta does get to bop us with all 4 Fusion Strike energies in play, but I think our game plan in that situation is just to knock out Meloetta and continue to chase after things like Genesect, and we play Echoing Horn to just keep our opponent putting Genesects in play, whether they wanted to or not. Sylveon's a 50-50 for me as well because they need to put multiple different types of bench Pokemon into play to deal a higher damage output. The more bench Pokemon they put in play, the better Palkia gets over time. The Leafeon package tends to be problematic for something like that, but until they don't need to utilize Shady Dealings to do their stuff, we take a benefit from that because they have to bench more Pokemon in order to get all the stuff that they need with Shady Dealings. Lilligant, Single Strike Urshifu, and Gengar all have high damage output, however they need to bench a lot of Pokemon in order to deal consistent one-hit knockouts. The Starmie Crabominable Frostmoth box is crazy consistent because it also uses the Shady Dealings line, but I think it plays into our favor because they also use the Shady Dealing line. I think Darkrai cannot operate very handily without a lot of benched utility, and I think that plays heavily into our favor. Malamar's a 50-50 specifically because we don't have any bench sniping. In order to tech around that, maybe consider putting in 1 Rapid Strike Inteleon V, as well as running 2 Quick Shooting Inteleon. That way, between Shady Dealings Inteleon and the Rapid Strike Inteleon V, you're able to deal 20 damage to the bench, as well as 2 Quick Shooting to potentially get rid of Inkay or before they're able to set it up and put them at a 2-turn disadvantage. The mirror matchup's obviously going to be a 50. The only suggestion I can give you is to use your V-Star power to power up Greninja and attack 2 Drizzile with the Greninja, and that puts you in a better position to win the mirror. Your less than favorable matchups are going to be Suicune. Suicune's a little bit more consistent, has the ability to attack the same turn that it's put into play. The fleet-footed ability makes it more consistent in terms of draw. It will also have access to things like Greninja, mind you. And it can benefit from Ludicolo's ability that allows it to deal 100 extra damage because it is a basic Pokemon. Rapid Strike Urshifu is going to be problematic for us in the future. I think if you prize Manaphy, you're going to be in a world of hurt. We definitely need to rely on the Shady Dealings line in order for things to operate efficiently for us. Hisuian Samurott has proven to be my favorite deck coming out of Astral Radiance, and I know I may seem incredibly biased when I think that it's a less than favorable matchup for us, but it has the ability to deal huge one-hit knockouts at any point in the game, running the Galarian Zigzagoon while for the short amount of time that it has in play alongside the Gapejaw Bog just proves to be problematic for a deck like us that kind of capitalizes from benching a lot of Pokemon. If all of them have damage counters on them at any point in the game, they're going to be early targets for Mr. Hisuian Samurott. Lucario VSTAR is just high damage output up and down the lineup. It punishes us for putting a lot of energy into play. The only reason it's not a bad matchup for it is because it only deals 240 damage with double turbo energy attached to it, which appears to be the most efficient way to play it. However, the 270 mark that it hits is just one shy from taking huge one-hit knockouts on things like Dialga, and it doesn't need to bench a whole lot of Pokemon to be effective. Plain and simple, if we didn't play Starmie, we would have a bad matchup against Arceus. Arceus is wildly consistent, has access to all the things with the Starbirth ability, and if we need to utilize our one ability to accelerate 3 energy into play, it is nowhere near as multifaceted as Starbirth is. Duraludon is a bad matchup. The Echoing Horn definitely plays a little bit into this matchup's favor, giving us the ability to go grab an Arceus V out of the discard pile and make that our late game target is a lot better than having to chew through 2 Duraludon VMAX as well as 1 whole Arceus. Bad matchups are going to be Raichu and Jolteon. Jolteon is a little bit better for us because if we put Manaphy in play, we're at least not losing 2 Pokemon at a time, but weakness is just weakness, and until Pokemon fixes that, we don't really have any say in it. And Ice Raider, Calyrex, and Machamp, they only need 2 energy in play, which is really, really easy to pull off in this format to deal a whole bunch of damage. The Starmie tech doesn't help us here. Having as much bench Pokemon as we can doesn't really help us here. Cross Switchers may stave it off 1 extra turn, but I think that these decks are too consistent and too powerful to swing in our favor. I think Origin Palkia VSTAR shows a lot of potential. I've also seen it paired with things like Blastoise VMAX, Inteleon VMAX, Glaceon VMAX, and VSTAR, so I think that there's a lot of opportunities for it in the future to be very powerful as a primary or secondary attacker. I hope you enjoyed this early deck preview. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, like the video, comment below which deck you want to see next week, and check out my Twitch streams once we get back to that. Akatana TCG over at Twitch. Deuces. Nice if things were loading, then I could go back to making stuff.